Coming up next on Arizona Horizon, a look at what's being called quiet quitting of evangelical support of President Trump. Also tonight, the economic impact of Canadian visitors deciding to delay, shorten, or cancel their winter stops in Arizona, and an effort to honor veterans and ensure that their stories are not lost to future generations. Those stories and more next on Arizona Horizon.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Arizona PBS, members of your public television station.
Good evening and welcome to Arizona Horizon. I'm Ted Simons. It's being called quiet quitting, and it involves some members of Christian and evangelical communities disengaging their support of President Trump. The reasons range from the president's overall behavior to the administration's immigration policies. Joining us now is political consultant Chuck Coughlin. He's president and CEO of High Ground. Chuck, always a pleasure. Good to have you here.
Thank you, Ted.
All right, so this quiet quitting of Trump, why this? Why now?
It's starting. I mean, there's a bit of it there. Let's be clear, though. The Republican support for the president is still supremely strong. But there is a faction of movement there based upon a number of things. The Kirk funeral, where he embraced hatred. You know, that's not a Christian principle, right? We know that. We know God says, love your neighbor as yourself. You know, he looked at Erica after she did that amazing act of forgiveness on the stage. He goes, I don't know, you know, I hate my enemies. I mean, I know people that were in the audience that were like, oh my gosh, that's such a fumble. And then, as you just referred to, you know, the nature of our faith is to say, hey, we're supposed to treat the alien well. And we have broken immigration policies, no doubt about it. But, you know, physically, forcibly arresting people, hauling daycare workers out of daycare centers and veterans' fathers and all of these other things that are going on. I think it's a callous response, and I think that imagery is causing a problem for the president.
And yet, this is the man who's made fun of people with disabilities. This was back during the first term when he did that. Dropping F-bombs at White House press conferences here. The masked agents, again, taking undocumented folks, some documented folks getting caught up in all of this. Yep. This is not new. This has been going on. You're saying it's starting. Did it reach a tipping point?
I don't know that it's even there yet. I mean, here's the problem, and this is going to upset, you know, our Democratic friends. It's like, what's the alternative? You know, the alternative has been broken. I mean, they've been searching around. This last cycle, they seem to have found a bit of a stride with a couple of governor's elections back east. But that's not anything out west. That's not out here. What is the message? Rubin and other Democrats have been talking about this affordability issue, and those things seem to be resonating. But by and large, you still have this Democratic Party that has alienated a big part of the electorate as well. And so people are like, yes, I don't like Trump, but what's my alternative?
The quiet quitting, is it being led from the pulpit or is it being led from the pews?
I think it's more pew-driven. I think it's people moving with their feet. I still see a great deal of pulpit preaching going on around the country within that evangelical community. But there is less of it to some degree. And then there's some acknowledgement. And we saw that during the Kirk funeral. We saw some pretty active debates amongst Christians during that period of time as well about what the definition of what Christ's mission is versus what the political mission is here.
With that in mind, is this evangelicals, Christians, folks who are, you know, have a strong faith, leaving Donald Trump, leaving MAGA? Obviously, I'm not imagining they're going to leave the Republican Party unless the Republican Party now is MAGA. What are they leaving? And as you mentioned, where are they going?
Where do they go? You know, does the Democratic Party create a door, create a window of opportunity to people of faith? I don't think most people of faith would say that that's an open door to them right now. I don't think you'd see the Democratic Party as a place that's embracing Christianity and faith. And so I think there's an opportunity there for them. I think many of them speak to that. Many leaders, Rubin, Senator Kelly, and others have spoken to that. And so can they put more air under that as a place for people to migrate to.
And it sounds, we call it quiet quitting, at least it's been referred to that, because those who are doing it, they're afraid of reprisal. They're afraid of ramifications from their flock. I mean, you can't say it loudly, but they're saying it quietly.
Yes, because it's a rough space out there.
Yes.
Christ himself says, your testimony will be costly. And so this is part of that. It's part of what that's going on. And so, you know, and the polarization of the electorate right now is not, you know, it's not where I want us to be. And I've contributed to that. I'm a sinner. I'm guilty of that. But, you know, that's something that is beyond me today. It's not helpful, the vilification of one another and not having a constructive discussion.
I would imagine the immigration raids at churches, near churches, within churches. I mean,
I have friends that go to Hispanic, and I have an employee who goes to Hispanic churches. They were having to lock the doors. They were having to, this is here in Phoenix, lock the doors so they could be protected if there was an ICE raid going on.
We talked about Democrats and how they're still kind of waiting to pick up whatever ball was left on the ground for them. What about Republicans? I mean, Mike Pence. Mike Pence was very loud in his faith and in his beliefs. Some would agree, some wouldn't, and his brand of that faith. Be that as it may, he is absent. He is AWOL. Is there anyone on the right or within the Republican Party, even MAGA, that can come up along that side and say, wait, hold your horses a little bit?
There's an active debate going on at the Heritage Foundation right now.
There you go. Yes, exactly.
About Nick Fuentes
Yes.
and Tucker Carlson. And you would hope that an organization like that, which is an institutional, ideologically conservative organization, would embrace that notion of what American democracy is and the Statue of Liberty is, and embrace a rule of law. I mean, I've talked to people about this. We haven't done this. We haven't had an immigration law since Reagan, and it has to happen. And I think everybody knows that. Something has to happen to create a playing field so our economy can prosper, because this vicissitudes of, you know, Trump liking something and not liking something in a overzealous ICE, you know, group going in and it's not helpful for the consistency of a productive economy.
Any of this, the quiet quitting especially, was any of it evident in Tuesday's elections, the recent elections?
I got to think it was to some degree that you have dissatisfaction with the Republicans in general, particularly in some of those East Coast, New York, New Jersey, Virginia, where these ICE raids have been happening. We haven't really had that a big part of our life out here. It has happened in Los Angeles. It has happened in other West Coast cities, in Portland. But you'd have to think that that affects people and says, you know, what is the American military doing in our streets in America?
I can't let you go without commenting on the deal. As we're going live here, they're still hammering out whatever details they want to hammer on. But it sounds like the Democrats have capitulated to a certain degree. Republicans are saying, we'll put it up for a vote and we'll add a few coins here and there. But it sounds like, and certainly I'm hearing a lot of hue and cry from the left, that the Democrats caved.
Well, there's a group of Democrats, right? There's 10 Democrats in the Senate.
I should say, yes, enough to change the paradigm.
Yeah, to get by the filibuster, that have deeply offended the rest of the party. So this is going to be a test to them. It's going to be a test to them as to how they handle this, because apparently it's going to move forward. Apparently the government's going to reopen. Do they maintain their narrative? Because this will only work through the end of January, I believe.
Right.
And then that issue's back on the table with those premiums. Those COVID-era tax premiums will have expired by then. And is there still a play? I would argue that there will be, because all of those bills are going to come due. You're going to see people start dropping off of the public health care exchanges, and that's going to be a significant problem.
I was going to say that's going to be a significant problem. It could be for Republicans. You said you were going to bring it up for a vote. I don't think anyone thinks that's going to succeed. They all think it's going to fail unless Republicans say, you know, we're on the wrong end of the stick here.
Well, it gets to the affordability issue,
exactly.
Right? Because there's a lot of that narrative going on right now we all see these price spikes and these price increases happening, and this affordability issue seems to be having traction within the electorate. This will be another brick in that wall for Democrats to speak to, that they are making health care more expensive for Americans. And what's the impact on that? You talk to most healthcare policy experts, they'll say, those people are going to still show up. They're going to show up for uncompensated care, which hospitals then have to cover, and then they bill the federal government for that. So what's a better way to keep people healthy?
Yeah, we went through that, had quite the discussion on that here in Arizona. You're a big part of that behind the scenes, yes. Chuck Coughlin, again, behind the scenes, a lot of things going on around here.
Thanks, Ted.
It's good to have you here.
It's great being here. Thank you.
This Veterans Day, the story of World War I comes to life with rare film and soaring music. A living documentary of courage, sacrifice, and honor. It's a chance to remember American Heart in World War I, a Carnegie Hall tribute.
The unprecedented violence on the streets of Ecuador.
A once peaceful nation, warring drug gangs.
Spawned a crime wave.
A military crackdown.
The president declaring the country is in a state of war.
And those caught in the crossfire.
Tuesday night at 9 on Arizona PBS.
Arizona is expected to see fewer Canadian visitors this snowbird season. Reasons include a weaker Canadian dollar, new U.S. policy that requires registration for stays of over 30 days, and the continuing tension between the U.S. and Canada involving tariffs and trade. How will all of this impact Arizona's economy? We asked Glenn Williamson. He's founder and CEO of the Canada-Arizona Business Council. Good to see you again.
Good to see you, Ted.
Yeah, thanks for being. I'm seeing reports we could see maybe a 20 to 30% drop in visits to Arizona this year. You agree with those numbers?
20% is what
20%.
we're estimating.
That's a lot.
Out of $1 billion, that's $200 million in tourists.
Yeah, that's a big hit for Arizona, a big hit for the country. What are you hearing from your friends up north?
So we're hearing an awful lot of different things. We're hearing border crossings are down because exactly what you said, all the different types of regulations and face pictures. And the Canadians are feeling very concerned about invasive types of operations at the border. It already happens on planes. So we're fortunate that Arizona is a plane environment. Used to be automobiles, but now it's planes. So the people flying down here are a little bit more comfortable than those driving across.
But those who are coming down here, they're saying, I'm seeing reports where they, not this time, not now, maybe later. Does that make sense? Or when it starts getting, 10 degrees below zero for a high, folks are going to start looking longingly below the border?
So the 51st state comment is what started this whole thing.
Yes.
Then elbows up. And then the Canadian psyche was personally massively insulted. However, a byproduct of all of this is Americans have stopped going to Canada. And
Oh,
that
wow.
is a flip of what's going on.
What is going on with that?
So we're finding Americans have decided they're not going to go to Canada. And the Canadian industries are now feeling this. And the tone and tonality of what's going on is starting to change a little bit. We're watching in Palm Springs where they go, "We love Canadians." We're watching in Kalispell, Montana, where they've got a "We love Canadians." So we're starting to see regional tourism happening on both sides of the border below the federal issues.
Regional tourism below the federal issues, and yet I can guarantee you within the next couple of weeks there's going to be some sort of belligerent comment coming out of Washington toward Canada.
Yep.
I mean, are Canadians starting to just take that with a grain of salt? Or, I mean, goodness gracious, how much can you take?
You can only insult people so many times, and then things start to change a little bit more. The problem is Canadians are having difficulty traveling to other areas that they thought would be easier. And that has changed a little bit of the traveling concept in Canada. Arizona is still one of those safe havens. They feel comfortable down here. Snowbirds feel great down here. And there's no reason to sell their houses down here because the capital gains in Canada would kill them.
Are they? But are they? Because I'm seeing reports that some Canadians are selling their homes down
Small.
here.
And about every 5 years this happens, Ted, because they take their profits, then they come back and they rent.
Interesting. All right, so let's talk about the business aspect here. Canadian businesses, Arizona businesses, that relationship, how has it changed?
Canadian companies are moving down here at a faster pace since Trump put in the tariffs. And the rationale behind that is if you're a Canadian company, the last thing you want to do is research and build and then send across the border and be tariffed. So what is happening now, Canadian companies are setting up parallel companies in the United States to manufacture and sell to the United States without paying tariffs.
All right, but does the administration see that? I mean, that runs counter to what the whole idea is regarding Americans taking over what was imports.
Absolutely, but then let me take it a step further. This administration is allowing Canadian money to pour into the U.S. Approximately $4 trillion is held by all the pension plans in Canada. 52% of that is invested in the United States, 13% in Canada.
And that's not changing? That's growing?
Not changing one iota.
What does that mean to Canadians? What does that mean to businesses in Canada? What does that mean to residents in Canada?
Canadians get a better ROI on their pension plans, and they get a better ROI on business. And Trump has allowed this to continue, and the Canadians are interested in making money in the U.S. The market is bigger.
Are they so interested in making money in the U.S. that they will take another 51st state comment?
No. That is problematic, but the business people are socially at dinner tables discussing that. Privately in boardrooms, they're not.
Interesting. Okay. What would you like to see done when you see what's happening in Washington, but also north and south of the border, and you're seeing all of these machinations here, because there's a lot of, it can be complicated. What would you like to see done? And obviously within realistic terms, President Trump is not going to say, "I was just kidding, we love Canadians." That ain't going to happen anytime soon. What can realistically be done?
Someone at some point, Ted, has to realize that Project North America works and we need to stay with it. The concept of deglobalizing a horizontal business model to a vertical model with Europe, Asia, and North America, at some point, someone has to realize that Mexico and Canada are part of the solution for the United States. And that needs to come out somewhere at some time.
Is Canada working more with Mexico? And how much more can they work with Mexico?
To a degree. It is a discussion in boardrooms, but then in reality, when you try to do it, it is more complex than you think. The same thing with Canada trying to work with China. That is more complex than it sounds like.
Yeah, because we keep hearing Canada saying, we'll just find new trading partners. We'll just go somewhere else. Not so easy.
Correct. And always remember that the Canadian provinces don't play well together to begin with. So the trade with the United States has been vertical between provinces and states. And now you're asking a country to go horizontal within its own country. And this is a country that has tariffs between its own provinces.
Glenn Williamson, Canada-Arizona Business Council. All right, Glenn, maybe the sun's shining a little bit brighter today as far as this whole relationship is concerned. It's good to have you here. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much, Ted.
Arizona PBS and the Heard Museum are hosting a sneak peek event for the highly anticipated Ken Burns documentary, The American Revolution. Join us at the museum for America at 2:50 Indigenous Voices on the evening of Wednesday, November 12th. See selections from the film, as well as the original Arizona PBS digital series, What Happened in AZ. Scan the QR code on the screen to register, or go to azpbs.org/America250 and learn more.
I'm Jeff Bennett. Tonight on the NewsHour, we speak with Democratic senators who support and who oppose the deal to end the government shutdown. That's at 6 on Arizona PBS.
Imprints of Honor is a program that connects students with veterans for one-on-one interviews that work to honor those who served in the military, while at the same time help develop future leaders. We learned more about the program from Imprints of Honor Executive Director Michelle DeMuro, as well as Barbara Hatch, who founded the program. Barbara, we'll start with you. Why did you what was all this about when you got this started?
Well, students saw the movie Saving Private Ryan, and they wanted to know more of the behind the scenes, what went on. So at the time, though, those veterans were in their 70s. So we reached out in the Valley, and we didn't find so many of those, but a lot of other veterans from World War II especially were ready to talk.
Yeah, and
perfect match.
Yeah, it's a perfect, and talk about that match. What really goes on here? The students basically just do an interview to make sure that those words aren't lost, huh?
Yeah, the students will conduct an interview with the veteran. We utilize the Veterans History Project sample questions at the Library of Congress, and they are taught, listening skills and opportunities to ask follow-up questions to really capture that veteran's service story. But also, why did they join the service? What lessons did they gain from it? How did they apply those to maybe additional careers or the rest of their life? So they're getting not just first-person history, but they're getting, a character and civic education as well.
And what grade levels are we talking here?
7th through 12th, but we also do work with some college students.
Interesting. Barbara, each story now is preserved in the Library of Congress. Is that true?
Most of them. I mean, sometimes you inherit a story another way, but they are videotaped. They could be audio taped, and then they're archived at our National Library for future generations. I can still listen to those tapes we did 21 years ago.
Talk to us about your reaction. When you first started doing this, is this what you envisioned it would become?
No. I was a classroom teacher. I taught for 40 years history. So I mean, you just start, and veterans had been coming to my classroom already. But this was a chance to go extra and get deeper into the stories they were telling in the 20 minutes maybe in a class. And so going out to their homes, and an interview could last for 3 hours or longer.
Yeah.
And really getting that is so powerful for students.
Michelle, what got you involved in this?
I got involved, I'm in my 11th year with the program, and I started out as a consultant with the organization, helping them with fundraising and then board development, and they were looking to bring on their first executive director. It was all volunteer run.
Yeah.
And I was intrigued and was excited to kind of take on that opportunity and that challenge.
Talk about the impact on veterans and the impact on the students asking the questions, because again, it's two trains here.
Sure, yes. So for our veterans, sometimes it's the first time ever sharing their story. Each year, anywhere from a quarter to a third of our veterans are sharing their story for the first time. And so that opens up that conversation with their family for ongoing conversations. And that's their stories preserved, and students write it and publish it in a book. And so that book becomes the family heirloom for that veteran. Also, every year, about 2/3, as many as 85%, will tell us that it was a very cathartic experience for them in some way. And they feel like, and 100% say they would recommend another veteran to participate. For our students, they are building, their academic skills with writing and history, but they're also having opportunities to increase leadership skills, and they're developing a mentor relationship with their veteran.
Yeah, I imagine some of these students, have you noticed a difference before they start the interview and then after the interview's over?
Well, usually we already get pretty good kids.
Yeah.
But watching them, you know, I've known some of them for close to 25 years, and what they become and their values. Just one story, one boy is a doctor, and he said when he has to talk to the families, the elderly families, the skills he learned talking to elderly veterans and getting to know them has helped him his whole life, because he is a pretty quiet boy. So I see that all the time. You're so proud of them that teaching, they're meant to surpass you.
Yeah.
And who they've become is impressive. And they're the best of who we are.
And the impact on these veterans, as you mentioned, it must be very rewarding to see.
It's a win-win.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Where do we learn more about Imprints of Honor? Where do we go?
If you go to our website, imprintsofhonor.org, we have a veteran page that talks about the program from the veteran's perspective and how they can sign up to be involved. And we have a student page that talks about it from the student side or the education side, you know, how to bring the program to your school or how to participate as an individual.
All right. Michelle DeMuro, Barbara Hatch, good to have you both here. Continued success and congratulations on your success.
Thank you.
And that is it for now. I'm Ted Simons. Thank you so much for joining us. You have a great evening.